Hello, chat crew. Hey, just a couple things to get us up to speed or to get us all on the same page for. One of the things that we've got going on with the Chattanooga, we didn't get a chance to go down there and actually do the preview and so forth. So I want to use this time to give you some information for your planning on this trip. A couple things on this. This is not meant to be all-inclusive. There's a lot more other details that we're going to need to chit-chat about, and you need to look in the athlete guide to make sure that you're aware of all the specific details and schedule and so forth. But I want to give you some highlights of things to do as we prepare going into this. The first is that most of us are traveling down either on Thursday or Friday morning, so I'm hopeful that we get the athlete check-in. I know that we've got some that won't be able to make that time. I've suggested 3 o'clock on the group. If that doesn't work, obviously let's throw back a time. I'd want to get the majority of us there within the group, if not everybody in the group during that time. The purpose of the athlete check-in, they've changed things. It's no longer, you don't get a predetermined number as you go in line at certain times. Whenever you go in line, everybody in that group gets a similar number, so that way we can be in a similar area in transition. Just makes it more fun, help with some of the camaraderie. I'd like to do that, like I said, on Friday, 3 o'clock. If you're coming down on Thursday, we'll have some morning stuff to maybe get a little quick ride in or just kind of make sure the bike's doing what it needs to do. Saturday morning, we'll have a group swim. The plan would be that we go get in the water and they'll have a practice swim set up. We'll get some of those details as we get closer to that. I want to go through the race day pieces. And then we'll come back to some of the details throughout the weekend. Transition's opening at 4:30. Most of the time, if we get there about 4:45 or 5 o'clock, we can get transition set up. And then we've got to get on a shuttle. We're going to take a shuttle just for athletes only, going up 1.4 miles up to the start. Well, I would like to get us all in the water about the same time. I don't want to be too far back. It's going to become a warm day, so obviously the earlier you get in the water, the better. The earlier you don't get to the heat. They're going to have the timing set up for different times. We'll figure out a time that the majority of us can get in about the same time. It'll be a fast-ish swim. We're going to be going downstream. We just want to make sure we get in and there's plenty of space to separate out. So I'm not as worried about people getting run over or getting into trouble that way because of the situation in the swim. There's a lot of wide area to swim in. It's going to be a fast-ish current. We'll be fine. The thing to think about with that, you're going to have your wetsuit. When do you get your wetsuit on? We'll talk about that again as we get closer. But let's not, make sure you've got plan for giving somebody your sandals if you're wearing your sandals down there. If you've got some other stuff that kept you warm, or if you bring down water bottles, that kind of stuff, you're going to need to have a plan to hand that off to somebody or to just discard them down there. We're not going to put our wetsuits on too early. That way we don't overheat coming to this place, but make sure that you've got a plan to have sandals, something to keep you not warm. That's going to be the wrong terminology, but you don't want to have any chill on you as you're going through that space. It is a 1.4 mile swim, so think about 2,400 yards, 2,450, somewhere in that vicinity. The pros start at 6:50, age groupers are going to start at 7. We'll probably be in the water about 7:20, somewhere in that vicinity. Look at how fast we're going to be moving through things. The swim cutoff is 1:20. All of you are going to be well under that. The bike cutoff, the time you get off the bike, is 5.5 hours. Plenty of time for that. And then the run cutoff, obviously the DNF for the finish is going to be 8:30. Shouldn't have any issues with those pieces, but just some awareness. There is no warm-up swim. You don't get to get in the water prior to the start of the race, so it's just, that's why I want to use Saturday. Make sure that we're ready as best we can to move that direction. Let's talk a little bit about the bike. The bike, you've got 11 miles on the stick. You're going to do a loop that's about 34 miles, and then you come back in those same 11 miles. On your way out, those first 11, you've got a little bit of terrain. It's not bad, but you are going to feel some stuff going over overpasses. There's some inclines here and there. Once you get to that, it's really about mile 7, you start getting out of town. You got a long downhill out to about mile 11, and that's where you start to see a false flat. The ground is going to look like it's flat, but you're really going uphill. That uphill is going to start undulating about mile 16 or 17. Undulating meaning that you're going to have some pretty decent downhills followed by some decent climbs. They're not horrible, but you are going to have some climbs. Mile 26 is Andrews. That's the halfway, just before the halfway mark. That's the climb that everybody's going to be chit-chatting about. It's not real long. It's fairly steep. If you're not ready for it and you get caught in the wrong gear, it's going to get you. After Andrews, you've got this big, long mile downhill sweeping. It's wonderful. You make a left-hand turn. You're heading back into Chickamauga. You have some rollers that you get to use the downhills to get uphill. It's a really fast, fun ride back into Chickamauga, where you're going to have some cheering going on. So there's a fan activities going to be there. You come out of Chickamauga, you've got two decent climbs coming out of there. The first one is going to shift you down a little bit. It's going to take a little while. It's not horrible. It's not as bad as Andrews, but you're going to feel it at this point. Just be ready for it. You've got another one that's about half of that size. You can look on the athlete guide and it'll show you the terrain. You're going to see where that's at. Look at the profile. Once you come out of that, you're 11 miles back into town. Now you're tired, you're fatigued. It's a long, hot day. Those 11 miles are really downhill going back in, but it's not going to feel that way. You're going to feel like you're working quite a bit, so just get your mind ready for that space. If you haven't kept up with your hydration, nutrition, you're really going to have a rough time about this place, especially as you go into the run, okay? So again, 11-mile stick, 34-mile loop, back 11 miles, and then you get off the bike for your transition. Areas to really be concerned about is going to be that false flat, about mile 11 through 16 or so. It looks like you're going on a flat surface, but you're going to be putting out the power. You're not going to be going the speed that you think you should be going. Just stay in the moment. Keep looking at your power meter, looking at your heart rate, looking at that effort level. That's all you're concerned about. You've got a couple of little climbs before Andrews. Andrews is a sharp left-hand turn, about mile 26. Be ready for it. You'll see everybody start to turn. It won't take long, and you'll see all the grunting that's happening in front of you. It can sneak up on you, but just be ready. Looking at your distance, you know it's coming up. About mile 25, start getting ready for it. You'll start to see a left-hand turn. Just know what's happening, okay? As you finish through Chickamauga, you've got another couple climbs, and then we go back in on that last 11 on the stick. Make sure that you're hydrated. Okay, I said all that kind of stuff twice because it's important. I want you to hear it twice. You get off the bike, we're going to start the run. Now the run is not horrible. The run is not horrible, but it's going to feel bad because you've got a lot of pavement. It's going to be hot. There's not a ton of shade. Okay, as you come out of transition, you're going to turn left and you're going to go away from the bridges. You're going to go away from the main part of the course. They have a little extension piece there. There is some shade. If you're feeling hot, this is the time to walk in the shade. This is the time to recenter, to regroup, to get your mind right as you come back into the shade. It's about a quarter, half a mile of that, so take advantage of it. Don't just take off running and expect that you're going to do great if you're not feeling well, okay? Once you get past that section, you've got some cement. You're going to be on a sidewalk. You're going to heading back down toward the river. You go about a half mile, and then you've got this climb. You're not even on the road yet. You got this climb back up to the road, up to the highway. That's really hot. It's fairly steep on the run. You're going to be at about a mile in right now, and you're going to feel like you're coming out of Eagle Creek. Those of you that in Eagle Creek, it's about that same incline right there, but it's going to be hotter. Be ready for it. You go on the highway, you've got about 2 miles of pavement, highway, cement, sun pouring down on you. You're going to take a left and you're going to be onto I think Monon Trail, but instead of having the Monon Trail with its asphalt, it's going to be more cement. Again, so it's harder. It's out in the sun. There's a couple areas of shade, but not a ton. You're going to do this out and back, and then you follow the trail back toward where you just started. So you've gone out 2 miles, you do a little out and back. It's really maybe a couple hundred yards, and now you're following, you're heading back west. miles 2 through, I think it's 4, are really on this trail. There's some shade spots, there's some good aid stations. As you come out of the last section of there's going to be an area that is a pretty decent incline. This is your first real 2-block incline that walk up that thing if you're not feeling well, especially if the heat's going on. Take advantage. You'll pay dividends by walking that section. You get past those 2 blocks, you kind of go down. Now you're going to be on a bridge, one of 2 bridges that go across the river. You're going to take a right and go across this is a traffic car bridge. You're going to stay on the shoulder, go over across. You make a little small loop and kind of double back on yourself. Going across that warm bridge, it's going to be hot, sun's coming down on you. It's the asphalt piece that's going to be radiating the heat back up into you. There's not a whole lot of relief there. Make sure you're staying hydrated, knowing that this is coming. When you make that little loop, kind of back on yourself, you're going to be running west again to the pedestrian bridge, up and across, finishing the first loop. So you'll be coming up on your 6-mile mark about then, okay? That first loop, I would be very conservative. I would be making sure that you're focused mainly on your hydration, nutrition, your sodium, getting used to the heat, kind of getting your legs back under you. As you start the second loop of this is where if you're feeling froggy, if you're feeling like you've got something left and you want to go get it, this is the time to start pushing. Until then, you should be in that aerobic pace, aerobic intensity, aerobic heart rate, whatever you're using, whatever you can tolerate to be going through that space, okay? When you've done that the second time, the only difference is the finish. So there's a left turn and a right turn. You would have taken a right-hand turn as you finish the first loop to go out on the second loop. You'll take a left-hand turn, which is downhill. Where you came out, that mile mark, that was an uphill. You're going to be going back down that same space to have a fast finish into the finish zone or the finish area. And hopefully you're smiling, you've got your guns up, you're enjoying the day. That should be get you through the run space. The intent for this is not only to give you some information, but I'm hopeful that if you've watched it this far, that you're intrigued. If you've got questions, shoot me text, put it to the group of different things. A couple of us have done this in the past, and we can have different perspectives on what happens here. But race morning, that's what that'll look like. Early rise, get on the shuttle, go stand, hang out, wait for the race to start, get out of the water, get on the bike, 11-mile stick, 34-mile loop, 11 miles back. You can go back and review what the terrain looks like. You can see the profile. As you get off the bike, coming into T2, make sure that you remember that you're tired, that you need to get some hydration, that you're taking caution as you're finishing up your bike ride. Be safe. Out on the run, make sure you're paying attention to where you're at. And if you need to take a couple miles to get your legs back under you, there's no shame in that. You'll actually probably have a better race if you do that than pushing too hard and then walking too much at the end. Hopefully none of you are walking, but predictably Chattanooga's gonna be hot and warm, and so you may have to back off just between what heart rates are doing. A couple other things. There is no body marking. You can see this in the athlete guide. We'll find a time and we'll talk through this text line of athlete briefing. Everybody needs to make sure they're spending some time to go through the athlete briefing. They'll make sure to tell you if there's anything on the road that we need to be paying attention to, if there's anything on the run we need to pay attention to, those sort of things. Look through the athlete guide in terms of what's on the course. Bike course is going to have water and Gatorade Endurance. It's going to have Martin gels and then fig bars and bananas. Okay? If that doesn't work for you, if that doesn't fit into what you're doing, you need to make sure or have a plan to carry things. The run will have those same things in addition to oranges, pretzels, and chips. Okay? So same thing there. If you need to have some other type of calorie than what's on the course here, you need to have a plan to carry it with you. Okay? That's all I have for this. Later on, I'll have some stuff. We'll talk about some of the taper pieces, because that taper, as we get closer, is really going to be a big deal. Make sure that we're all rested and ready to go into that. Okay? If you have questions, shoot me a text. Shoot a text back here in this group text, and we'll go from there.